For years we've been told the lie that these things are the best input devices to play games with. They have to be below a certain weight, have ridiculous polling rates and DPI values that are absurd. And to top it all off, you need an overpriced piece of cloth to put it on. What if there's something better than a gaming mouse? What if the superior aiming device has been underneath our feet this whole time? This is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever had. I'm going to be using a trackball for the next 30 days, and I could just leave it there. But no, I've decided to set myself a challenge that I'm confident I won't end up regretting. In just 30 days, I will be as good with a trackball as I am with a mouse. And my standards are very high. I used to play video games professionally, so I'm not just going to accept mediocrity. In 30 days, I will master the trackball. My initial research took me to the usual suspects, various Kensington models that are locked to just 125Hz. I normally play with some of the best gaming mice money can buy. Moving to such a low polling rate would make this challenge a lot harder than it needs to be. But after a bit of googling, I found the Game Ball. This is a 1000Hz polling rate trackball. It has game in its name and has RGB, so it ticks all the boxes. I'd also like to point out that I used my incredible influencer pool to get one of these sent out to me for free, because regrettably we don't earn that much money on this channel, so subscribe, maybe that'll help. Anyway, thanks to them for providing me with one. When it arrived, I plugged it in, loaded up a CS2 practice map to experience my first issue. Even though my base sensitivity felt okay and moving towards the target's general vicinity was comfortable, any sort of precision was way off. Lowering my sensitivity would help with that precision, but it meant that trying to move two targets with a further distance from each other would require a lot of ball stroking. Based on this, I decided to try out WARHURYEAH, which is a program that allows you to fine-tune acceleration for your input method of choice. I can use this to have the best of both worlds, a low sensitivity for smaller movements and then have the acceleration kick in when moving the ball faster. So I had to get used to a trackball, learn a new button layout and find an entire new preferred sensitivity with the acceleration settings. And ideally I had to do all of this without feeding in my games. It seems like a big task ahead, but I'm sure I'll manage it with grace and decorum. But there was one major issue I started to notice whilst practicing, and I was just getting started. On the left side of the game ball you have your left mouse button, the back button and mouse 3. This is designed to be used with your thumb. On the right side you have your right mouse button, forward button and a precision mode that reduces your current DPI down by a third. My issue is that whenever I bend my thumb, my index finger moves. Apparently this is called Limburg-Comstock syndrome. Allow me to demonstrate my issue. If I try to draw a straight line with a mouse whilst tapping the left mouse button as fast as I can, the line will look like this. If I do it with a trackball, it looks like this. You can see the small movements when I click that I then have to correct to get back on course. But I also have the same problem with my pinky and ring finger. So if I try to use the right side buttons, I have the same issue. Which means because of my weird hands, the 6 buttons that are on the game ball, I can effectively only use one of them. And I just want to point out, I have had no problems with gaming mice ever. It's only now that I've discovered this problem with my fingers. So there's just no way I can aim consistently with my fingers moving like this all the time. Unless I can find a solution to fix this issue, this challenge might already be over. With the purchase of some foot pedals, I've been able to bind left mouse button to my left foot, allowing me to shoot, and have the right mouse button for ADS, leaving my right hand to just ball. Problem solved, it's time to grind. The The foot pedal experiment was a complete failure, really. I need to really just focus on aiming with the trackball, and I found myself focusing more on what my feet were doing on the foot pedals. And when things got a bit too intense in game, my muscle memory would be all over the place. I've tried them for about 4 days and I've decided not to stick with them anymore. There's just way too much for me to learn, and I don't have that much time to do it. My weird fingers are also continuing to cause an issue. Because the game ball is also rather narrow, it means that I have to squeeze my fingers inwards, which causes a bit of discomfort. This might just be because I'm new to the device and the discomfort could go away after a few days. But considering how quickly I need to improve and how much I need to grind, I might need to look for alternative trackballs. I actually came across a company called Ploopy that have multiple trackball designs to choose from. My Ploopy of choice is the Adept. I'm hoping with its flatter design it might be more suitable for my weird fingers. Once again, I used my big YouTuber influence to coerce another small company into sending me a product for free. And it worked, obviously. The Adept feels a lot better for my fingers, with my hand just resting on it. But it doesn't completely fix the whole thumb moving the index finger thing. The extra buttons around the trackball are unreachable for me whilst playing as well. But this was kind of a shot in the dark, and this isn't designed as a gaming device. But I kind of need this to be good, or at least feel more comfortable to use, as I've wasted around a week and a half sorting out my binds and messing about with foot pedals, and I still don't feel comfortable with a trackball. I'll also be swapping jump to left mouse button and shoot to spacebar. This will reduce the amount of instability caused by my thumb bending my index finger, as I surely shoot more than I jump. The only thing I can do now is grind hard over the next week and experiment as much as possible until I find something that hopefully feels good. This has probably been one of the most awful experiences I've had playing video games. I've shuffled between the Game Ball and the Ploopy Adept because I just don't really know what else to do. Words cannot describe how bad I have been playing. My impact in game has been so minimal that I feel embarrassed sometimes. Even games that I've won, I do not enjoy because I've had so little impact in them. At this point, I don't want to do this anymore because I haven't found a sensitivity or anything. There just seems to be no light on the horizon. During this low point, I received a package. It's a new mouse called the T-Volution Terra. This is an updated version of my favourite mouse of all time. A mouse that I used the most in my world famous esports career, the G703. I've been waiting for something like this for almost 10 years, and I'm stuck doing nothing in my games with a trackball. Unless I just use it for a little bit, maybe?
No, you're bound to me, you see. You have yet to scratch the surface of my ball. No, don't actually scratch me, you muppet. You have yet to untap my full potential. You haven't lubricated me, rubbed me with scented oils, nor have you cleaned out all the cat hair that's covering the sensor within me. Also, your sensitivity and raw cell settings are also rather mediocre at best, and it feels like you've just moved sliders around instead of actually analysing the biggest flaws when playing and using the tools provided to try to mitigate those factors. So don't give in, young man. Together we can achieve greatness. Together we can conquer the world. In-game and limited to EU servers. Just believe in yourself. Believe in the ball.
Punch up. I'm not sure what happened, but something clicked. Or should I say rolled. It might be that my rank has tanked so much that every game has now put me in the trenches, but I feel like I contribute to the games that I play now. I'm doing well, and dare I say, I'm having a bit of fun. There's still some challenges that remain. I struggle quite a bit with large vertical movements. You can see in this footage how I'm literally not looking up at all. My horizontal tracking seems to be pretty decent and improving a lot, so as I cross just over the halfway point, I'm going to increase the acceleration of my vertical movement in hopes that looking up will be a lot more comfortable. In terms of the actual devices, the Ploopy Adept is pretty great. I love the design of it as it suits my dexterity challenged fingers a lot more. To use the left mouse button, I press down with my thumb instead of bending it, which means my index finger won't move as much. However, to use the right mouse button, I do have to use my pinky finger, which moves my ring finger regardless. The ball is pretty big on this, so there's more area of movement without having to rotate it. There's also a bit of friction to the ball, or stopping power I should say, that makes involuntary ball movements less frequent. As I mentioned earlier, I get no use out of the buttons on the top as I just can't reach them comfortably whilst playing. However, this product isn't designed for gaming, and no offense, but I get the feeling that the type of people that would buy this product are mega nerds that then continue to tinker and improve the product, as well as make a plethora of 3D printed add-ons. The game ball has a really good layout, and it annoys me because my fingers don't allow me to use it comfortably. I do find myself having to reach a lot more with the game ball, which can get quite uncomfortable. Like, maybe it's a bit too big. I mean, I've got big manly hands, right? I mean, these definitely look manly. These are man hands, right, guys? Please tell me they are. The ball is also a lot smoother as it's using silicone bearings, so there's not as much stopping power. However, I'm not a fan of the ball size or the position. There's less area of movement, and there's this little nub here that also gets in the way sometimes. Now, there's negatives to the actual balls on these devices, but I won't go through them now as things are starting to look up in the story of this video. I'll go through my struggles along with my overall thoughts of this when I finish this dog challenge. Overall, the Game Ball is a more solid product from a gaming point of view, which is no surprise. It's called the Game Ball. Anyway, I'm rotating between these a bit because they're both good in their own way, and I've gotten used to them. So I'm going to try something a bit drastic. As I enter the last week of this challenge, I'm going to take a risk and drastically change my acceleration settings, as well as try to play without any acceleration. These changes might take me as close to my goal as possible. There's a lot of things I've discovered about trackballs over the past 30 days, one of which was a potential benefit to using them, but there was a negative that I experienced with both of the trackballs, and that was the lack of consistency. And I don't mean in terms of my aim, but in terms of how the balls feel. And both of these had completely different issues with their balls. On the Pluby Adept, I found that there would be a lack of consistency in ball movement, which might have been caused by a cat hair to be fair, but I'd clean it out and it still wouldn't feel consistent. I think it's mainly down to the metal bearings it uses, and so it really suffered when I needed some real pinpoint accuracy. I did clean out the bearings multiple times, I even lubricated them a teeny bit, but this issue still remained. It felt like I was using a mouse pad that had loads of crumbs on it. And another thing I forgot to mention, it's a bit noisy, which did get a bit annoying sometimes. The Game Ball also had some issues. There would be points where it would start to slow down a bit. The ball would feel a bit muddy and just lack the buttery smoothness that it first had. So I would take the ball out often, clean it, and clear the dust and dirt from the silicone bearings. I did try lightly lubricating the ball, but I didn't particularly like how it felt on my fingers. It did increase the consistency of the smoothness for a bit though. So there was a bit of maintenance needed for these, a lot more than what a mouse would need. Obviously, it does depend on your environment as well, so everyone's experience might be different. I did also buy a cheap and nasty trackball as a comparison. I didn't play with this as the sensor wouldn't keep up with my ball movements as my sensitivity was too low, but this one has a hole at the very bottom, and I wonder if that's not only to help take the ball out, but maybe for dirt to fall out of? It seems like this would be a really nifty design for any trackball to have. What I did find enjoyable, if I could call it that, from this whole experience was tracking. Once I had a sensitivity and raw acceleration setup I was comfortable with, tracking at points felt good. And despite the issue with my fingers, it was less fatiguing to play with a trackball, which is probably down to most of my arm remaining completely still. So there's benefits to a trackball, but not enough for me to want to keep using it. The real question is, did I succeed in being as good with a trackball as I am with a mouse? No, I would need another 3 months at least. My win rate was around 35%. For reference, from 80 games previous to this challenge I played, I had around a 54% win rate. And out of the 65 games I played where I won with a trackball, I got carried heavily in around 20 of them. By the end, I only felt comfortable when playing Deadlock. CS2 was particularly awful to play, and I won't say any more than that. At least those of you that hold their mice like goblins can take comfort knowing that in a few years' time, when you can't play games without a lot of pain, a trackball could be a viable alternative. But boy, will you be in for a ride. There is actually a professional Deadlock player who uses a trackball called Zergy. He might be using the exact same trackball that I bought for this video as an example, or a joke if you will, of a bad trackball. The sensor is garbage and it's limited to just 125 Hz. So there's the proof, a trackball is a viable alternative input method to a mouse. For anyone that had to play with me these past 30 days, I apologise. But take comfort knowing that I was suffering greatly. I may or may not be interested in doing something similar with another alternative viable input method. If you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments below. But if you excuse me, I have a date with a gaming mouse.